Talk about a sensitive generation. I asked a question.
Don't let that attitude get to you of these older people not listening to you.
Yeah.
And so it says what, Meg?
Welcome to the Open-Ended Podcast, where we go deeper than the Sunday sermon. We are going to try to bring you a little deeper than just kind of the surface levels that we talk about at church. We're going to dive deep into some of the scripture and talk about the subject that we're talking about. And my name is Mike, and with me today is my co-host.
And my name's Meg. And today we have with us the lead pastor of Faith Center Foursquare Church, and that is Mr. Joe Parks.
Hello. Yeah, we're going deep into the well of living water.
Is that what it is?
Write that down.
Did you change your sermon title on
No,
us?
I just think that's what Open-Ended Podcast is. We're going deep into the living water well.
The water well.
The well
yes.
of living water.
That should be our theme song. That song, going into deeper waters with you.
I don't know that song.
Stirring up
I don't either.
deep wells.
Oh, yeah.
I could get up and start spinning now.
No, please don't.
We're gonna jump.
Just got you settled. You don't need to get up.
Jumping. Oh, I'm so happy.
That's
All right. If you can get me the registered trademark for that to use on the opening, that'd be great.
I don't think we need. I didn't sing it
Meg wrote
near
that
close
song.
enough to how it actually sounds for that to be.
Pretty sure Meg wrote that song.
Did she?
Joe thinks I write every song.
It's gonna be just fine, bro.
Deep,
Anyway.
deep waters.
Did you write that? I have asked her that before.
Yeah.
Really?
I wish I wrote that song.
I thought it was an OG.
Yeah,
I didn't know that you wrote songs.
I don't.
Or
I try.
you should.
I know.
All right, let's talk about some stuff. We're in a recent sermon series called Ripple Effect.
Indeed.
So do you want to give us I'm talking quick. Do you want to give us a quick overview of what the
It'll
three...
take about 15 minutes.
No,
No.
this is quick. Then we'll
Both
dive
of you
deeper.
said no so fast.
Then we'll dive deeper.
The ripple effect has to do with the idea of you and I and you making an impact. And when we make an impact into the kingdom, there's a ripple effect. And so it's about being purposeful in that. How can you and I, what are we gifted to do? What are we called to do to make an impact? And it's all about discipleship. It's about mentoring. It's about taking people with us on the journey and not just showing up. There's a huge difference between a follower of Christ and a disciple of Christ. Follower of Christ is just showing up, loves Jesus, but they're just showing up. Disciple of Christ is pouring into other people. They're pouring into themselves the word of God, but they're also then taking that and walking along with other people. And it's a huge ripple effect. It's a multiplying effect, and it's the Jesus effect. That's what it is.
Good. That's a great summary. I appreciate that. Anything you want to add to that?
No.
Yeah. So it's been a 3-week series now. You've had Jacob. You did one by yourself, and then you had Pastor Caleb and Garrett on.
Yes.
And Jacob started out with the homeless ministry, homeless outreach. He started out with showing up for kids.
Yeah, Jacob Clark is here for us locally, is our local representative and leader of Young Life Ministry, which is all over the place. It's a global ministry, but he is the local Humboldt representative, and so he was able to really give us a lot of insight into how to impact Gen Z and even Gen Alpha. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely showing up for the kids in their life in that way. And then with yours was focused on what? Well, on your Sunday?
Mine was more of a challenge to the current generation, whatever that looks like. You may be a little older than me or even younger, but the challenge of how you and I can go out and make a difference and be that impact and being purposeful. So I kind of walked through some steps on how we could do that together.
Yeah, and I wrote down a lot of notes on what you had to say. And then Pastor Caleb and Garrett, they talked about... Yeah, where I got the homeless one was Garrett was talking about the homeless ministry. And then Pastor Caleb is talking about the kids again. And something that something that Garrett said really stuck out to me. And I try to relate it back to when I was raising my sons. And it was when you're going to spend time with your kids and you have an hour of time. Well, you don't have time. the way he was putting it is you don't have time not to pray to God first for his guidance, because the way that we sectionalize it in our mind, we're taken away from our spending time with our kids, and we want to spend more time with our kids. But the way that Garrett put it was that if we will pray first and bring the Holy Spirit into our time with our kids, it's actually going to be more beneficial, and it's going to be a greater time, more fruitful. Yeah. So inviting God into your relationship with mentorships. So obviously it's kind of all over the place. So let's dial it back into the mentors and mentees is really what you're getting at in this sermon series, right? That's what you're looking for. And when you're talking about the ripple effect, you made a good analogy of throwing a pebble into the pond and a clear pond and having the ripples go out.
Yeah.
That's what our impact is
Right.
when we're mentoring, like say mentoring to a younger kid that's going to grow up and then mentor to another younger kid. And that's the ripple effect that
Right.
I think that you're trying to get at, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep, it's good. But something else that was said is you need to be open to be able to be mentored to also. And this is the hardest one, is by somebody younger than you could be the one that's mentoring you. I thought that was kind of fascinating. That's not an easy thing for an older guy to accept all the time. Because, and I thought about this, and I'm glad you asked that question. It's because we are supposed to, it's like the husband to the wife. We're supposed to be the comforter, the protector, maybe not the comforter, the protector, and the provider of the family, right? So when we can't provide, we feel like we have to do that. It's kind of the same way with the younger generation. We're supposed to be the ones that have the wisdom and knowledge and the experience and things. And that's not always the case. I've been hanging out with Garrett a lot, and that kid is smart, man.
Yeah.
I'm
That
like,
34-year-old, that kid.
yeah, exactly. I still think of him as a kid. I don't know why. Come on. Just that's what happens when you grow up with the kids in the church, and then you see them go through school and grow up and have kids and get married and get married and have kids.
Yeah.
But no, Garrett's not a kid. That was kind of one of the first things that I told him when I started hanging out with him. I was like, I know that I'm 25 years older than you or 15 years older than you or whatever, but I don't want that to inflect our conversations that we have together. It's like, I'm going to be learning from you just as much as,
Well, that's the iron sharpening iron, right? Proverbs, 27:27, I think. Meg, can you pull up what Jacob opened with? 1 Timothy 4:12.
Yes.
And that is what you were talking about with the younger generations and being open and willing to take that because of could be the struggle. And here's the Apostle Paul, right, writing this letter to Timothy, which is that exact thing. It's a mentor, and he's speaking into the life of this younger Timothy, and he's telling Timothy, don't let the mics get to you. Don't let that attitude get to you of these older people not listening to you. Yeah. And so it says what, Meg?
It says, don't let anyone look down on you because you were young, but set an example for the believers in speech and conduct, in love and faith and purity.
Yeah.
If I'm, reading that right.
So his whole point in that is just set the example. So you're going to have some of this pushback from older generations. And Paul's telling him, bro, it's coming. It's coming. You're going to get pushback from people because he was the pastor of the church in Ephesus.
All right.
And so he's telling him there's going to be pushback, dude. There just is, because they're older than you and they think they know more and they've been around longer and they're going to have a lot to offer, but don't let them look down. And the way that you do that is by setting the example and showing them what it means to live like Christ. And as you do that, you're going to build the trust and have the ability, because I think we talked about that in the service or in the series anyway, of earning the right to be able to speak into somebody's life. And I think maybe Jacob brought that up, of earning the right to be able to speak into somebody's life. And you have to do that. And you have to do that through your example of being a disciple of Jesus and not just a follower.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Caleb even touched on that with the younger generations. You need to develop that relationship before they will trust you.
Mm-hmm.
So you also talked about that we need supporting voices, and I think you touched on that a little bit with what like Paul was talking about. You need a Paul to a Timothy in your life. So does that always have to be an older person, or can it be a younger person that's speaking?
Yeah, absolutely it can. It typically ends up being somebody that's older and does have more experience, but not always. It doesn't always have to be that way. You could have somebody that's younger, but that's just what God has done, and they've gifted them and to have that ability to be able to speak into a life and be able to engage, because that's also, it was hard both ways, but I think it's even harder for a younger generation to be able to engage an older generation.
Why do you think that that's hard for, and it goes both ways. Our generation has a hard time believing or engaging, trusting, whatever, I'd insert whatever here, into the younger generation, because like we feel like you guys don't have the experience yet. And then you all feel the opposite to us. You're like, you guys are too old to know.
Yeah, you're irrelevant.
Yeah, exactly.
Skippity Riz.
Skippity peanut butter is.
Yeah, that I think creates a huge disconnect on both sides, because the older people can come at the younger people, or I would say tend to come at younger people with like, why are you this way? Like back, it used to be, this world is just, it's going to terrible places, and you are in this generation that's, it's almost like an accusation that you're making it worse, and that it's, or because of you, or, as the younger generation.
Sorry, I just got here. I think it's all been
Yeah,
you
exactly.
guys.
And then the younger people are going, hey, wait a second, we just got here. How are you going to tell, how are you not going to see that hundreds and hundreds of years of history going in this direction, and then you just being the one generation up going, oh, you guys are a mess.
It's such a terrible cycle.
But then the younger people can also discount the experience that the older folks have in life, just life experience, by going, yeah, whatever, you're old, you don't know what my life is like. And there's this big disconnect, I think, because of that behavior. And I'm not seeing with my own eyes, I'm also not in a whole lot of spaces where I would see this other than the church. I'm not seeing a whole lot of effort on either side to go, I understand we live completely different lives, and our experiences in the same world are so different. I want to understand yours more. I don't see that happening very much. I think it just perpetuates this gap. And so the disciple making cross-generationally gets like hooked on that lack of ability or desire to ask and to be interested in somebody else's experience. Our survival skills, like emotionally, just make us go, who has it the same as me, and let's band together, and we just stay together.
Yeah.
And that doesn't really help big picture.
I think a phrase that you touched on was, when you're a child, act like a child. I think it correlates with 1 Corinthians. When you're a child, act like a child. When you're an adult, act like an adult. So much of my generation, I know we tried.
My wife says I struggle with that verse, by the way.
Do you get them flopped? Is that?
Yes.
It's back and forth. Yeah, I think when I heard that, it really resonated that I didn't let my boys be kids. I always tried to get them to be at the level that I was at as a man. I was 30 or whatever, however old I was. And it really struck me, and it's something I keep going back to in my life today, is because I want people to be able to be at where they're at. If they're at a child's like age or whatever it is, they don't need to be coming up to mine. And that's why I think our two generations fight with each other, is because we want you all with a nice healthy 401k and a nice 10-year plan. And we realize that you guys aren't there yet. We weren't there yet. We were not there at all. So how can we be asking the next generation to do that? And I think it really puts that dividing block in between the two generations when we do that. And then we can't develop that mentorship or menteeship like that, because we've already pushed them away because we're setting up expectations and we're not meeting them where they're at. Mm-hmm. Right? Would you agree?
Absolutely. And also understanding the restrictions of if they have a bigger family life or not. So
Bigger family life. What do you mean?
well, if there's children involved, and that just changes everything. It adds another element that you have to think through. Well, how do I do this now? How do I spend this time with them when their schedule's as full as it is? And taking that into imagine, you got to figure all those things out.
That's a great point too. You always have great points. Why does Kathleen say all these things about you? You're fantastic.
Because they're true.
You're fantastic. I don't understand why she downgrades you all the time. All right. Any follow-up thoughts within that area? Or we want to move on.
I want to touch on something that you said I want to bring up a point from the sermon from that was
October
called
the
Imparting.
13th?
Yeah,
Yes.
on the 13th, called Imparting Spiritual Life.
Yes.
Something that struck me from that message was when you were talking about how parents communicate with their children and, essentially like how are we leading them up in the ways of the Lord.
Which, can I just say, I don't know if you're going there or not, but Deuteronomy chapter 6 is kind of the bulk from that. That's the bulk text that we grabbed 6, and I want to say like 5 through...
7 through 9.
No, it's deeper than that. Like 5 to...
Deuteronomy 6, 7 through 9.
9, maybe. Anyway.
4 through 9. Love God with all your heart.
Starts there. Finishes with through the door frames, tied on your...
It says you started in Deuteronomy chapter 6, started in verse 4, and you went down the verses, I think, for a bit.
Yes.
But
Because that is the child reference scripture that you're saying.
okay. Well, the part that was really like grabbing my attention, because I'm not used to hearing people say this, I feel, in our current times, and I don't know if this is just me, but I do see, I think we all see in society a softness, a sensitivity that has developed. It is a little harder to be able to just kind of say things how you mean them because, you're kind of afraid, is someone going to take it wrong? Like, am I going to offend somebody? Right. And so I think because
Offense level is high.
Yeah. I haven't heard this talked about this way, but you essentially were making the point that, it isn't just like, oh, little Johnny, do your best. Just do your best and it'll be okay.
Yeah.
Because that's not really true and that's not really biblical. And if we actually talked about what the Lord requires of us,
Yes.
it's so much more intense than we want to think.
So true.
But Christians get caught in this, well, how do we show general society, especially unbelievers, that we're not terrible and tyrannical and we aren't like wanting to control everybody, but at the same time communicate to especially the children that it's actually not a free-for-all. Yes, you have free will, but you don't get to just do whatever you want and get eternal life in heaven with God. You don't get both things. So I was surprised to hear someone from the platform say, you can't do that, basically. So I'm curious what you would say to parents who struggle with that, who want to be gentle and loving and kind to their kids and not scare them away from God, but still have them teach the truth to their kids.
Yeah, so it's Ephesians. It tells us to speak the truth in love. God is love, and Jesus is known by love more than anybody. I think John chapter 8 is a big one with the woman caught in adultery, and he didn't lower the bar, right? He told her that she was still in sin. What he said was, don't do it anymore. But he also didn't condemn her.
Yeah.
So I think that's where we get tripped up, is we feel like there needs to be some sort of justifying punishment or discipline that goes with it. But But there is the fact that Scripture tells us that you are going to reap what you sow. So even though you and I aren't like maybe bringing forward a punishment or discipline or anything like that, but still speaking the truth, like this is what the truth is. But in love, but I'm not condemning you. And if we could take on the approach of recognizing that we're all flawed and we're all jacked up, and that's kind of part of the ripple effect, right? Is people get stuck on not making an impact because they're jacked up. And they don't think that they can, and they don't think that they can take somebody along because I'm too messed up. But if you'll do that together, we're messed up, Mike. So we're going to go through this together, you and me, and we're going to sharpen one another, and you're going to do dumb things and I'm going to do dumb things, but we're going to tell each other that in love and speak the truth in love to one another. And I think that's the part. What we talked about in the message is Jesus never lowered the bar. He never lowered the bar. And what I was telling our folks is you have to raise the expectations. You can't just do the little try thing, like you said. Like you have to raise the expectations, which is why Deuteronomy 6:4 was so important. Love the Lord your God with some of your heart.
With all of your heart.
Yeah, right.
Oh, all of it.
With all of it, Joe.
All right.
We were like, what translation you reading from?
Yeah.
And he said, the Joe's trying to make a point translation.
That's right. That was Louisa.
No, it was Andrew.
I could have
He was
sworn
like,
that was
what?
Louise.
We were sitting right by Andrew.
I was like, I can't believe Louise spoke out like that.
No, I was
being funny.
I was cracking up. Andrew was like, what translation is that?
I totally thought that was Louise. Because I saw you two sitting together.
Yeah.
And he's known for those little jabs. And I was like, oh, I like that, bro.
No, but it did totally make me laugh. I was like, that was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, with all of your heart.
So you've got
all
it. Yeah.
it
There's
is,
no lowering the bar. And that's the problem. And that's what you're bringing up, Meg, is we have this tendency to want to lower the bar. But we can't lower the bar. Jesus never lowered the bar. Right. I don't know if I'm answering your question, other than to speak the truth in love.
Yeah.
But still speak the truth.
Right. Well, and it's how to hold kids to that in the younger generations who, like any kid of any generation, any young person, most young people don't really like being told what to do, don't like feeling confined, don't like feeling like they're forced to conform to something. They want to freely express themselves. They want to learn things on their own. Right. I went through all of those things. I'm sure you guys did too. So how do the wiser of the population communicate that to the kids that we're not domineering, it's because we love you? But how do you go past words with that? Because
but the only thing I could say to that is sharing your story. So this is what happened to me, right? This is taking people with you on the journey. So I get it. Like what, in this case, you would be like, I get it, because I 100% went down that road, and this is what I did, and this is what I thought, and this is the way that I responded, and this is how I acted, and guess what I found out? That didn't work.
guess where it got me.
Yeah. And it's just story time, and it's just sharing your life with somebody else, speaking the truth in love, and making clear that I'm not telling you what to do. I want the best for you. And that's what I try to do all the time is I just want the best for you. Whatever's the best for you, that's what I want to see happen. So how can I help come alongside so that you can be the best version of Mike Crafton?
Yeah, why are you pointing at me?
Well, I've had a lot of work. Jen keeps giving me a big old list.
Oh, does she now?
That's half of what she does on her work days. There's more things.
At the leader staff meeting, she just downloads you on what I've been doing wrong.
She gives me a Google Doc. It's like 86 pages. It keeps growing.
It should keep going.
Jen is Mike's wife, by the way, for the listeners.
Yeah.
But it goes back to that you have to show up. You have to earn the right to be able to go to that place with them. So you can't just go there and be like, you are brimstone and fire. Is that what it's called? What did they say?
You are filled with brimstone and fire.
Is it the Baptists that
So
that
sick.
do that? That say that are like,
It's just certain types of Christians, and they call it fire and brimstone, where you're just like,
method of speaking?
yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
exactly.
method of
It's
speaking,
like
and it's
fear
it's
and-
even a way of thinking that really
Burn,
comes
burn.
out of their
Turn or burn.
is yeah.
That's fire and brimstone.
Yeah.
Like if you don't
Right now, you're
turn,
going to hell.
you are gonna be toasty.
so it sounds like it's, yeah, exactly. If you don't turn around right now, it's going to get hot where you're going.
This is a terrible method, by the way.
Yeah.
The fear
Doesn't
tactic.
sound like speaking the truth in love, although
No.
they would probably say that it is. So anyway,
Yeah.
I think that's a good point, that we don't want to condition them with fear, but we have to show up for them and listen to them. And
I think it goes with what you're saying, goes along with the example that Meg brought up of that, bringing up that point of earning the right.
yeah,
And hopefully that's where you are in that relationship, to be able to speak that into them, like when they don't want to be confined and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But hopefully you have gotten yourself into a place where you're able to do that, and they will listen to you. Doesn't mean they're going to like it,
Right.
but that they will listen to you and be like, okay, and if they do anything with it, they do. If not, then, you just keep praying, because there is such thing as dropping seeds, and you can only do your part, right? Romans 12, live at peace with everyone as much as it depends on you. Like it's doing your part. It's dropping seeds, because you don't know, it might take 10 more seeds before they actually get it. The message that you told them 3 years ago, but it took so many different times of hearing it from different individuals, or experiencing it themselves of, oh, this is 100% what Meg was talking about when she said she went down this road. I just did the same thing. And then they go, you know what? I should listen to Meg more. And that just happens naturally.
And the cool thing is, because of the whole like life experience and wisdom thing, because we messed up so much, we know.
We do.
Don't do that. And we have stories to tell because we already messed up.
Yeah.
Right. And then I feel like with each generation, ideally, right, this is the hope, with each generation of after we communicate this and we story tell and we do all these things, they'll just make like smaller mistakes because they're still going to make their own. But after hearing the story, they might go, okay, well, I'm not going to get to,
well, you
that
got
point. But
there is value in learning from your mistakes. Obviously, that's how I learned from a lot of my stuff. But what we need to get to this generation, my generation now, and the future generations, is critical thinking. You need to be able to see those problems ahead of time and not make the mistake, and not learn from not learn how not to do it from the experience of it, but seeing the problem is going to happen before.
Yes, but I want to make a little shift with this in saying it's not just about mistakes, it's about success. So in this ripple effect, you're not just saving them from the nightmares that we could all endure, but you're also showing them the route to a successful, fruitful life. And you're imparting that to them, like, hey, here's how you can be the best version of you. And that's really the approach that we have to have, is being the best version of you. How can I help you become that? What can I do to help you become the best version of you? And that is who God created you to be. What are your gifts? What are the natural talents that you have? How does that blend in with your personality? All of those things, your experiences, to move you into a direction to help you be the best version of you.
Yeah, and that can manifest in a lot of different ways, like seeing something that they might not be seeing in themselves.
Well, it's the journey stuff. So it's just like, man, I remember when I made this shift in my life, and it's whatever the positive shift is. I started calendaring everything and doing this and doing that and getting all these things. It could be really practical stuff. It doesn't necessarily have to be like, walking through a biblical principle,
True.
but just super practical things of showing people how to go that direction and what will make them successful and fruitful. Those are some of the ways that you earn the right, not just telling them you're going to mess up. I mean, unless you see an absolute train wreck coming, hopefully you're just pouring in life.
yeah.
Just speaking life.
And positive reinforcement, because there's all this wonderful stuff that young people bring, this new life, these new kind of attributes that they introduce into our daily life and the way that we live in society. Like one of my favorite things that the generation younger than me brings is that hunger for real. Like they just are not impressed by flashy things. They grew up with phones already, with computers, with everything. And it's like, that's just normal. You can't impress me with that stuff. What will impress me is heart to heart, like the stuff that's actually going to change me.
Right.
And all the stuff around me just isn't that, it's not that impressive. It doesn't impress anything upon me.
Yeah.
And I feel like them bringing that into the church is not only crucial, but I think can and has the power and ability to steer church attitude down on our knees to the feet of Jesus and not as much like self praise or this kind of self-help attitude that a lot of people go to church for. And then they never get to the feet of Jesus because they're so busy thinking about, 5 ways I can improve my life. But who's teaching them to get down on their knees? And I feel like, if anything, the younger generation is teaching the rest of us. We need a heart to heart.
Nice.
Like, it's not about all the other stuff. All the bells and whistles are just not important. We need the authentic relationship with Jesus and with each other. I love seeing that. I think it's like, it gives me a lot of hope for the future of the church.
Amen.
The capital C church.
Capital C corporate. Yeah, it's definitely something that I struggle with too. Like trying to be a better person all the time and not seeing the trees through the forest through the trees, forest through the trees. Spending time with Jesus, and I'm too concerned on crossing the T's and dotting the I's in my own life type of thing. I like it, but we need to. I think you said this in the sermon. Not every kid gets a trophy. Did you say?
That's right.
Were you the one? Were you the one talking about that, or did I hear that in another sermon?
I said that.
Oh. Well, then I don't know. Who said that's right?
That's right.
That's right.
Every kid gets a trophy.
Well, I think that's kind of. I think
Purple participation ribbon.
Sure, give them the ribbon.
Yeah. What is all that about, anyways, man?
Don't go home.
It's the inclusivity and making everybody feel, like on the same, playing field.
Well, it was the soccer league that didn't
keep
score, but the parents did.
Yeah.
And I think probably at least half the players
kicked
did.
their butts today.
Yeah. I get the idea, but.
So to tie that in a nice little bow, you said that we shouldn't shove it down their throats because if we're not living right, they're going to see right through it.
Gotta keep it real, bro.
Keeping it real.
Authentic life. No messing around. But because they'll tell it. And then, we brought up the point of I don't want to shove it down their throats, right? There can be that concept of I don't want to shove it down their throats. I want them to be able to kind of discover things on their own. And I could see that, right, where parents and other people would be like, I don't want to shove it down their throat. But there's a couple of things that come with that. And that is, if you are giving them the truth and you're telling them to live this life out, but you're not living it out and it's not matching, like your life is not matching the words that are being spoken, then they're going to dip out. They're going to have nothing to do with that. They don't want it. They're going to sniff that out as inauthentic, and you're a phony. And just because you're saying it and you're telling me to do it and you're not doing it, I'm not doing it. I'm out. But if you're telling them this is the way to live and this is the truth and I want you to follow in this way and you're doing it, that's a whole different ball game. Like, you want them to read the Bible, then they need to see you reading the Bible. You want them to be people of prayer, then they need to see you on your knees down before the Lord in prayer. So a lot of the stuff that Meg was talking about of this being real and being authentic. And I don't need some showy, flashy thing that you go to church on Sunday, but live like a heathen throughout the week with your guys at work and people at home and all that stuff. Like, I'm not buying into that.
Yeah.
But if you're legit and you're real, then I can see the benefits. And actually, what will happen is I want to know how I can have that in my life and that level of intimacy in my life that you got. I want what you got.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it's all about.
Yeah, we have a saying in AA, it's attraction rather than promotion. It's kind of it's going along the same lines.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think we kind of covered the kids pretty well with Meg. We talk about mentorship real quick for a little bit. Something that interests me and fascinates me the older that I get in life too. So, how do you handle? Do you mentor people? Do you? I know you mentor a full church, but or you pastor a full church. Do you have guys in your life that you're mentoring that you're taking on? And
Yeah, all of my stuff is done for the most part. It's typically done through relationship. It's all one-on-one. Most of it is just developing real, authentic relationships with somebody. And in that, I find that I'm just trying to take people along the journey with me. It could be my peers. We've talked about this too in the past. We didn't really talk about it in the ripple effect because we have talked about it in the past about, you need these three different people in your life. You need a Paul, you need a Barnabas, and you need a Timothy. You need somebody that's speaking into your life, but then you also need that Barnabas, that's the Paul. Then you need the Barnabas, that's your peer that you guys are just kind of doing life together and speaking into each other's life. And then you need the Timothy that you're really pouring into. And so I find myself in these relationships that I have a Paul and I have Barnabas and I have Timothy. And I just do that through different times together with them and meet with them and I get together. Like, you're my boy Barnabas. Like you and I do that. And I have that. You speak into my life and I speak into yours. But then I have other people that are my Pauls that speak into my life. And then I have a bunch of Timothys that I'm around all the time. Right? The Garretts of the world, the Calebs, I could list you a number of guys.
Kathleen's, Meg's, yeah.
But I mean, I do have some Paul, and Timothy with Meg for sure. But Meg is also one of those that can speak into my life. She's one of those 1 Timothy 4:12, like she's got some straight up wisdom and she has that ability to speak into people's lives that are older than her as well.
Yeah.
Just because God has given her that. He's blessed her with that. So you kind of find that happening sometimes in relationships as well. But it's all done through relationship. And I don't know if I'm really answering that. The other way that I would say is in small group as well. I had a young leaders group that I ran for about a year here in town, and I specifically grabbed people that I knew had a pastoral or a leadership, at least in the kingdom calling in their life, and I grabbed them together, and it was like 12 young people, and just spent a year with them, teaching them leadership and pastoral practices and all kinds of stuff.
So that'd be like the Timothy. So what Pastor is describing is Paul is the mentor to whoever it is, and then Barnabas is like
The peer.
Yeah. Pastor Joe and I have a great relationship, talk baseball, talk everything else, but we pour into each other's lives. Then the 1 Timothy is the next generation that you're pouring into as a mentee or bringing up. Can you think off the top of your head any of the mentors that you've had in your life that really stand out?
For me personally, yeah, absolutely. I have a whole bunch of people that have poured into me over the years. And also looking at it this way from the difference between, number one, by the way, if you just want to know, number one was my grandfather. He was absolutely amazing.
The greatest mentors, right?
But also, I don't know if it's like a 1A or a 1B, but like my mom was huge in a huge role in my life of that mentoring and leading me in the calling that God has for me and just showing me how to live a real godly Christian life. She's probably number one. And then when it came to like leadership and pastoral stuff, would probably be Grandpa would be number 2. And he was a Foursquare pastor for decades. So, we kind of had that. I already had that kind of in me to be able to do that. My first church in Katy, Texas, I brought him in and he would speak to the staff sometimes, even though he was in California, but we were in the Houston area. But yeah, man, when they came to visit, I brought him to speak to our church staff because that kind of wisdom, man, you just got to grab a hold of it and let it. But anyway, I have a number of those mentors, but even still, I would say then what we really didn't cover at all, and you want to talk about diving deeper into the well, are the models that you can have in your life, which are, and I'm not talking about, I know what you're thinking.
I'm trying to get you to clarify because it's all over the place right now.
I'm not talking about what you're talking about. No, that's all I'm talking about. Or I'm not talking about anything with pink or anything like that. I'm talking about the models are people that are mentoring you from afar. So it's not necessarily a relationship, but there are people that are speaking into your life. So like currently right now, one of those models / mentors that I don't have a relationship with, but is speaking into my life is like Carrie Newhoff. And this is somebody that's further out in front of me that's done it and knows so much more than I do, but is offering all of that stuff, the wisdom that he's trying to take people along with him on this journey or wherever you are, and he's helping you. And that's an example of me being able to connect. There's so many examples like that, like Erwin McManus, who's the pastor, founder of Mosaic in Hollywood. That's one of those. I follow him again from afar. I've never met him before, but I follow him and he speaks into my life, and it's a lot of communication and how to speak and a whole bunch of things, but how to be a great storyteller. He's one of the best storytellers in the world. So just kind of, I learned those things from a model, which those people are still Paul's in my life, but they're not writing me letters. They're writing letters to a group, to a group of people. And I'm one of them.
Yeah, that's kind of fascinating to liken it to stuff like that. Like Paul writing the letters is like our YouTube back in the day, right?
Yeah.
Like Tony Evans and these guys are on YouTube for us, bringing us along,
right?
And that's how Paul was back then for these guys writing those letters.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. Back when you were being mentored by your grandfather, did you know that you were being mentored by him? Did that connection happen in your head for you? Or is it just now that you're later on in life, you see that he was a mentor to you?
Well, growing up, you don't know those things. You're just doing life together and you see the example, right? And he had earned the right to do that.
Yeah, okay.
Into my life. And you don't really see those things when you're much younger. But once I started getting into leadership, which happened early for Kathleen and I. Kathleen and I were in church leadership at 22, 23 years old. We were already leaders in the church, and we needed people to speak into our lives badly because we didn't know a whole lot. And so we just kind of dove into it. And at that point, I actually set up mentoring sessions. Like I set them up. I did it with a lot of people. I would write letters. I wrote a letter to Jack Hayford, who is a well-known Foursquare pastor down in the LA area. If I could, he used to hold a pastoral conference every year at his church in the fall, and I went to a few of them. And I said, "Hey, I'm going to come. Is it possible that I have 30 minutes with you?" And he said yes. And so I sat down with Jack Hayford and had a little recorder, recorded the whole thing, but I was all ready to go. I scheduled mentoring. I do it. I go out and I reach out and I say, "Hey, I want to spend some time with you, and give them an overview." But I've sent out a lot of those. I sent it to Chuck Swindoll. I sent it to a lot of different people. If I could do that and just sit down with you for 30 minutes, and I tell them I'll pay them, what do you want? You want $100? Like what? Like I'll pay for that time. Nobody ever took any money. Yeah. They all just said, "No, this sounds great. Come in." But I think it's very important if you're looking to be mentored It doesn't matter the age. It doesn't matter the generation that you are. If you're looking to be mentored, you got to go ask. It's very rare that the mentors are out there going, there he is, or there she is. That's who I want. It's pretty rare that happens.
Yeah.
Sometimes God will do that and he'll bring that across. But most of the time, you have to go chase down the mentor.
It's great advice. I wish I would have known that earlier on in my life, because like now I'm doing that thing that you're talking about. What kind of the couple of things that I'm doing in my life right now is I'm re-looking at the 5 closest friends in my life, seeing what they're like, seeing what I'm being surrounded with, and I'm broadening that. I want to grow more, so I'm putting more friends in my life that are up above me or ahead of me in life where I want to be. And especially coming up on retirement, I need to start thinking about retirement and things like that. What the next phase of my life is going to look like. And man, it sounds like I'm so old. Jeez,
You are. You're 67 now. Like you're at the time where you can take Social Security. No
62.
restrictions. You're good.
Cash it out, baby. No, it's so funny.
You're not 67. How old are you?
I'm 63.
You're 50, right?
Yeah.
50. You're going to 50.
Retiring in 5 more years.
Holy moly.
Well, it used to be 5. My birthday's in January, so it's down to 4 now. So I'm retiring at 55.
Dang.
But I'm doing that thing. I'm reaching out to people, just like you said. It's really ironic you said that. And scheduling time with them.
How to do it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
What
good.
are you doing? What was the next phase in your life? What did you do? What did retirement look like for you? Did you go crazy? What year did you retire? Just all that kind of mentoring stuff. That's good stuff. I love it.
I love that you're retiring at 55 because that just means I'm going to ring you into the church for more work during the day. Well done, sir. Your wife's already here. Just come.
Yeah.
For free, though. I'm not paying you.
I can see that. I've already been here twice this week, and you fed me both times. So if you keep feeding me when I come, I'll come more. That's the way it works.
That's easy. That's church salary right there.
Yeah, it is.
So get you a piece of chicken.
No, no chicken. No,
This guy doesn't eat chicken.
it's so gross, man. It's so gross. All right, so this is your Proverbs in under 90 seconds.
Oh, yeah.
Proverbs 26:9. To ask a moron to quote a proverb is like putting a scalpel in the hands of a drunk. Hire a fool or a drunk and you shoot yourself in the foot. As a dog eats its own vomit, so fools recycle silliness. 26:12. See that man who thinks he's so smart, you can expect for more from a fool than from him.
He thinks he's so smart.
What kind of advice is that giving us, Joe?
I shouldn't have hired you.
Don't put a scalpel in a fool's hands, in a drunk's hands.
Drunk.
Yeah.
Do you see a problem with that?
No. I mean, that's why I want operating on
But
me.
you're sober now, so I can put it in your hand now, but you still call yourself a drunk.
I think I
because
shake more now that I'm sober than I did when I'm drunk. So you might want
It's
me to.
fine. Let me have the scalpel.
Yeah, exactly. I might have been more steady when I was drunk.
I have a story for you. My grandmother is 93. Mm-hmm. And one of the little kids had a splinter. They had a splinter, and it was at her house, right? Like the whole family's over. I think it's like Thanksgiving or something. Yeah. And kid comes in, and grandma's like, go get the needle. Like she's got, because she's like always doing stuff, needle, thread, yarn, all that. So she's got it like right there in the living room next to her little, table that she's got there next to the couch or whatever. And they bring over the needle, and she grabs that needle to dig the splinter out, right? Mm-hmm. And it was so funny, dude, because it was like this kid is sitting here with a splinter, and she's like, and I looked at my aunt next to me, and my Aunt Polly looked at me right in the eyes and says, steady as ever. She still got it. And then the kid is like, it's just like it's going to be like a Zorro on her hand. But she comes out and then she just like sets the needle right there, steadies herself, digs that sucker out.
Yeah.
We're coming down, dude.
No.
Could you imagine?
Steady hand. I know.
Kid?
I have seen that before and it scared me. Jeez.
That's not good, dude. So that's your Proverbs under 90.
That's my Proverbs in under 90 seconds. And that was a little long. All right, buddy. Well, thanks for sitting down with us and talking to us about mentorship.
I love open-ended podcasts. Love what you guys are doing. Spread the word, y'all.
Share with your friends.
Send it out there, man, because this is good stuff that Mike and Meg are doing.
It is good stuff. Talking about deeper than the Sunday sermon. All right. If you have any questions or any episode ideas, go ahead and send them in. You can do it at open-ended at eurekafacecenter.org, or you can just leave them in the comments. That's probably the easiest way to do it.
Yeah.
But we appreciate all the texts that we've been getting and all the people that have been reaching out. We truly do love it. All right. We'll see you next time.
Yay.